If you can you please join in by making a sound of the cross together? In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Shall we please pause for a few moments? Inviting God to be with us around this time. Bringing before God our needs, the people that you represent, and also thanking God for all that we have achieved, and asking God to be with us, what is ahead of us. Oh God, we come before you with gratitude. We thank you for the gift of your servants, our Mayor, Yvonne Johnson, or our councillors, officers and staff of our council. We pray for this council meeting tonight. May the Lord grant you all wisdom and guidance as you deliberate on the agenda set before you. May you always see your responsibilities as opportunity to make a positive difference. May every decision be for the benefit of the people you represent and serve. May you always act with love for the common good. May God grant you all personal peace in your lives and joy in your tasks. May God bless you all in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you very much. And don't feel that you need to stay. I know this is your day off on Tuesday, so please feel free to escape, and thank you for coming along. It's been very good giving up his Tuesday evenings to come here. Thank you. Right. I think we have some apologies. Mr. Bailey, I'll hand over to you to give the apologies.
Yes, apologies for absence have been received from councillors Blacker, Crawford, Mahfouz and Wesson.
And I believe we've got some people online. Oh, so over there's Councillor Ball.
And Councillor Boostertill.
Right.
Thank you. I'll add that to the list.
And Councillor Day, please.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we've got some people online, have we not? Is that right, Mr. Bailey?
That is correct, Madam Mayor. We have Councillor Summers and Sahota present online, and I've been notified Councillor Haley will also join us online.
Right, thank you. Can we agree the minutes of the last meeting on the 4th of March? Oh, sorry, there's somebody in the back row. Go ahead.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I was missed off the apologies for the last full council meeting, so that can those be rectified and myself be added onto that? Thank you.
Mr. Bailey says yes. Thank you. Can we agree the minutes of the 4th of March? Agreed? Thank you. Announcements, just to say thank you for all of you who've been supporting all the events in the past couple of months. The dinner at Pillars was very successful. There was a waiting list for that, and that went down very well, and I think people enjoyed it. We also had a quiz night last week, which was very well attended. We overspilt from the room we were in into the main part of the pub. I think that was enjoyed by everybody, and it was an excellent evening, those of you who came along. I came this past during Ramadan. I went to 2 iftars. I'd never been to an iftar before, I have to admit, but I hadn't been invited to one, to be fair. And so I went to 2 during Ramadan, one in Brent and one in the West London Islamic Centre, which was really interesting. I also had a dinner in Brent with the Mayor of Brent. I've been to the Battle of Britain bunker, which was really interesting. We went to a private viewing at Pitshanger Manor. I went to an awards ceremony at Sybil Elgar School, a reception at West Ealing Library, which was very good with Polly, which was on last Saturday. That was really good fun, and people locally are going to take over running that library, all being well. We've welcomed students from Mark and Borough. We celebrated International Women's Day with retired Unison members, and we must thank the council. I can't see her in the room at the moment, but she's very kindly donated some china to the Mayor's Parlour. Oh, there she is in front of me. Thank you, Amajit. That was very, very kind of you. We had a school visit from St Vincent's School, and I still got more things to go to before the end. This year has gone incredibly fast, and as I say it again, there are so many really good people in this borough that we can be proud of, who give up their time. Today we were at a charity at West Ealing, where at St Dunstan's Church, people who help asylum seekers and refugees and teach them English and give them clothes and so on. So much good work goes on in this borough, and I think we can be proud of all of that. And this now brings us to the more serious part of the meeting, petitions from members of the public. Can we call upon the first person who's going to come and present a petition? Zoe Dobson. Over to you, and I think you know you've got 3 minutes. Thank you.
Just checking it's working, yes. Firstly, thank you for the opportunity to present Ditch the Swamps, Reclaim Our Park petition, which asks the council to re-evaluate the SUD scheme on the following grounds: health, safety, absence of clear justification, and a loss of an open recreational space. Imagine you turn your back for a minute and your toddler falls into the deep water basin. Your child retrieves their ball, touches the toxic wood, and a few days later they get Weil's disease. Your dog is violently sick because of drinking the contaminated water. Lamas Park SUDs present serious health and safety risks that are reasonably foreseeable to the public. The scheme was carried out without meaningful consultation. When the fences went up in May of last year, it was the first many residents knew of the scheme. Contrary to the council's own corporate health and safety plan, there has not been a full safety audit review. Only after public challenges did the council commit a report by ROSPA. It states the risk is unusually high for newly cut basins. The most fundamental risk is that the project is right next to a playground, and ROSPA say a safe distance would be at least 30 metres. There's no clarity on how deep the water will be in these basins. Even ROSPA couldn't decide if they'll be semi-dry ponds or so deep that they'll need life-saving equipment. The project takes 50% of the park's flat field. You can't play football on a slope or have a picnic in a crater. There has been no evidence in the form of a flood risk assessment to explain why the SUDs are the size and the depth that they are. Due process has not been carried out. An ombudsman investigation deadline has passed without council providing information needed. We're not against SUDs, we welcome biodiversity, but not at the cost of our safety of our children and the contamination of our park. Samples from the North Pond confirm that Thames Water has directed untreated sewage into the SUDs. After a 3-day clean-up operation, we took follow-up samples. The results came in yesterday and are damning. Both North and South Ponds still have sewage at levels that could be dangerous. The council say levels are acceptable in wetland areas. This is not a wetland, it's a park. The open ditches are attractive to children to run through and play, and you cannot stop them. A kid ingesting anything over 100 CFU per 100 ml will be ill. Our test shows level of up to 3,600 CFU. Water flows in pipes under our streets for a reason, because it's contaminated. Sending stormwater through an antiquated sewage system and into the centre of a public park has long-term repercussions. This is a project which opens up the council and the residents to paying for correcting Thames Water's mistakes when it inevitably goes wrong. In short, we ask the council to revise the scheme, to make it safe, take less land, to keep dirty water underground and give us our playing field back. The park is too valuable to all of us to mess up. Thank you for your time, and all the source information is available on request, including the laboratory water tests.
Thank you. Councillor Driscoll to respond.
Thank you, Zoe. Thank you for presenting your petition, and thank you for raising the points that you have raised. And I genuinely welcome the opportunity to set the record straight and also to make sure that people are aware of the full consultation. You talked about without meaningful consultation. There was a full planning application in 23 that received consent in September 23. There were notices around the neighbourhood. There were notices on the park gates. I know
Nobody knew about it.
Excuse me.
So,
Sorry.
if you let me finish, I can continue,
Yeah,
if I can have time, Madam Mayor. So there were notices in addition to the statutory notices around the park, on the park gates with colour plans. I know that because I, as a local councillor for an area neighbouring the park, received emails from inquiring in response to those notices. I've checked with local ward councillors also, and they said they've had inquiries from those notices. So they were clearly there. Those notices were up and they were removed in April 24 and are updated with new notices prior to the work starting in May 24. I'm really sorry that you didn't see those notices, but they were there, and I had correspondence and emails from residents saying they'd seen them. I think it's really important to say that SUDs come in very many shapes and forms, whether it's on an individual household level, whether it's on a curbside, or on a larger scale, that opposite Lamas Park. Lamas Park is slightly less than 5,000 cubic metres, which is about just slightly less than 5 million litres. That is to help enhance the catchment and prevention. We are in a case of climate change. Climate change means a warmer climate, more moisture in the air, more sudden and dramatic water bursts and continuous rain as well. So we know in 2021 there was flooding. I was literally wading through an area just about 10 minutes from Lamas Park because of flooding. And you need to be aware that that flooding is not water that cannot get in to the surface water drain system. It's water that's in there and hydraulic pressure is pushing it out. So we need to be really clear that also, and I think you were misinformed, that there is a misconnection by Thames Water. That is not the case. I've been told there was a misconnection at a private property. There's a dual system, i.e. one system for foul water, one system for surface water. This system is for a surface water attenuation. A property made the wrong connection. That's been addressed. I'm advised that in Easter, that misconnection will be rectified. I was in the park this week. People were having picnics, people were playing football, people were enjoying themselves. They were literally there. So it's fair to say, and absolutely right to say, that the Lamas Park project has not gone as we would have liked. But however, you must also recognise that we met with residents, heard their concerns. We stopped and paused the work. We did a second planning application to address their concerns, and we responded to residents.
Would you like to do a supplementary question? And it needs to be a question. Thank you.
Yes. Why did you fail to do the FRA and a full safety audit before the work was signed off? And now you know what you know, how are you going to protect the safety of our kids?
There was a safety assessment before that. We enhanced that with a ROSPA assessment, and we also had plans to do a lot of the ROSPA recommendations in hand before that recommendation was had. I'm afraid I have met meetings with officers. You're not in that position to have meeting with officers, and that was discussion that was taking place beforehand. So those things are bearing in mind. Please bear in mind that water features in parks are not unusual. We can go to Walpole Park where we have water. We can go to Northala Park. We can go to Perivale. We can go to Perivale, we can go to Greenford, all with parks with watering. We have the Grand Union Canal passing through the borough. We have the borough literally split in half by the River Brent. So water in and around the borough is not unusual. So, I mean, I think it goes with, like, when I see things like there was no...
This is next to the playground.
Can we just let Councillor Driscoll answer?
When I say things like the council started the work without planning approval. Completely wrong, as I've mentioned before. So equally,
can I ask people to be quiet, because I don't want to stop this discussion, but if people could have manners and let each other speak, thank you.
So we've got mitigation in response to Rossborough as well. We had plans already, and we're very conscious that park's used by an awful lot of people. And children are still using that park now. We will be working hard to get it resolved and make sure that it's usable as soon as possible. We're dependent upon the weather as well. And I think in terms of safety, as I stressed, the misconnection from a private property was very recent and has been.
Excuse me, I had children in at the town hall a few weeks ago, and some of them were better behaved and their manners were better than some of the people in front of me. Now, can you please behave as well as the children who I saw a few weeks ago? Thank you.
So, and the SUD programme is a surface water drain programme, which is separate from foul drains, and it was because of a misconnection on a private property, which has been rectified. Thames Water, who have got the statutory responsibility to investigate this, did so quickly and promptly, and I've been advised, as I said before, that work has been undertaken in Easter and will be resolved. We will do further testing and we will make sure that all that programme of work is complete. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Thank you. Could we have the next lady, please? Excuse me, madam, could you be quiet, because this is a council meeting. It's not just for you. There's another person wanting to come up with a petition.
Madam Mayor, then there's no point us sitting here, is there?
I'll have to ask for you to leave if you're not going to let the next person speak. Would the next lady like to come up with her petition? The next lady. Angela Fonzo. Another question, I think. Over to you.
Thank you for your time.
Can I go ahead?
Yes, go ahead now.
Okay, good evening, councillors, good evening, council officers. My question is addressed to Councillor Paul Driscoll, Cabinet Member for Climate Action. Today, 21st of the 2nd, 2025, is the 33rd consecutive day of a different daily fly tip, which appears to contain commercial waste photographed at the same location on the green in Southall, opposite the parade of shops and restaurants. The photographer has reported the fly tips daily by email and hasn't received a reply. When will Ealing Council implement effective deterrents, fines and prosecute perpetrators at this location and other hotspots in Southall, where pavements are regularly obstructed with large fly tips affecting the safety of children, the elderly and the disabled, including wheelchair users?
Thank you. Councillor Driscoll, if you'd like to respond.
Thank you, Angela, for your question and raising the point of fly tipping, which is an issue which I think needs to be addressed, and we have got plans to address it. Regarding to the location that you mentioned, there are 30 registered businesses at that location, plus also residential properties above those. There have been 30 Section 34 notices that requires the business to submit their commercial waste arrangements. They've been served on those businesses. 4 businesses only responded, only 4 out of those 30. The other 26 businesses were being issued with a £300 fine for failure to provide the information. So you asked for some action. There's an example of one part of action, but we didn't stop there. So we also went on to look for evidence of the fly tipping, and we have also FPNs, so fines issued for fly tipping at that same location, each of which is £400. So as well as enforcing that the commercial waste arrangements are being provided by the retailers and the other businesses in the area. We've done that. We fined them for not having that sufficient information. We fined them for also fly tipping. And we've also contacted the residents in the nearby properties. You mentioned about problems in Southall. And I know you've made inquiries. So you asked for an inquiry from the 1st of January 22 to the 30th of October 24, which is a 22-month period. There were 1,404 FPNs issued in the Southall town alone. That's out of 4,383 FPNs issued in the borough as a whole. In the period which you also asked for, from the 1st of November 24 to the 31st of March 25, there were 440 FPNs issued in Southall. That's out of a total, and it's just about over a third of the borough total, of 1,186 in the borough. Now, I appreciate doing comparisons by towns is not quite equitable because of the distribution of populations. However, if you do it by per thousand, the enforcement actions that have been taken in Southall are significant and exceed those that have been taken in other areas. It's also worth to note that the cleaning and cleansing routine in Southall includes a dedicated fly tip removal vehicle between 3 wards: Southall Green, Southall Broadway and Southall West wards, a dedicated removal for 3 Southall wards. We also have enhanced street cleansing, deep cleansing at a more regular rate compared to other parts of the borough. So in each of these areas, we're going above and beyond what we do in other parts of the borough. I agree there's an issue there in Southall. We've got plans to do that. I think it's also worth to say thank you to all those residents who've taken part in cleaning up their neighbourhoods. So thank you to the 300 people who took part in the spring clean across the borough, collecting almost 3,000 bags of waste, principally in our parks and neighbouring streets. So thank you to Largacam for that, for all their efforts to make the borough a brighter place. Thank you.
Would you like to ask a supplementary question?
Yes, I would. I passed various fly tips this evening on my way to the Western Road bus stop, which had a divan and various bin bags. This is the same bus stop where I saw a young man in broad daylight exit a side gate by the fresh fish shop and deposit 2 black bin liners beside me before going on his way. I reported it. I didn't want to take a photograph of his face in case of retribution. I took a photograph of the back, but I could clearly identify him because he stood next to me to deposit his bags.
Could I ask you to ask a question now?
Yes, I am reading onto the question. I took a photograph. I gave a detailed description of the address where he exited from, which had an outhouse around the back. Can you tell me why my report was closed? Because I was willing to give a statement.
Thank you, Angela, for giving that example. I'm very happy to go through that example in detail. The description you gave of a young man wearing jeans of a South Asian origin with a black beard and a black hair wasn't sufficient to denote a specific individual. The gate that you mentioned was inspected by officers who found that there were 5 doors accessing that gate and that rear alley. Officers knew that, well, tried to find CCTV camera from the council's provision. None was available. They visited local businesses and asked them for their CCTV cameras, and none was available again. So they did all those actions without me prompting them to investigate your response. This is what they did just because you made that complaint. I'm afraid a description of a man of South Asian origin who's slim, wearing jeans with black hair and a black beard wouldn't be distinctive enough for them to proceed that further. As you know, I've tried
That's not the description I gave.
Interrupt, please.
As you know, I've tried to meet you several times, either in Percival House here, and because I knew you visited here before. As you know, I've offered to meet you online. As you know, I've offered multiple opportunities to have a phone call as well. Unfortunately, I won't meet you in Southall because when I offered to meet you in Southall, you broadcast it on social media, which I didn't think was appropriate a time and a place to meet and asking for people to attend. So that's not appropriate. I'm willing to meet you in Percival House. I'm willing to have a phone call. I'm willing to meet you online. So as I've met people throughout the borough, whether you're in Hanger Hill, whether you're in Greenford, whether you're in other parts of Southall, I will meet people and have a discussion, which I've done.
I think, Madam, he did answer you brought social media with you. Can you be quiet now, please? Madam? His answer.
So because you failed to follow the simple requirement of having two people accompany you at that meeting, I will meet you in Percival House. I will have a phone call. I will meet you in line. I will not meet you in Southall because you failed that trust. So as I've said, as you did.
Excuse me, Madam, you're not being helpful to your case, please. Let him finish.
So as you know, you put on social media the email that set out those conditions. So you know that. So that's why I have to put restrictions about some interaction there. So officers went above and beyond to investigate quite a thin inquiry, but they went there and made the effort, as they've done. As we've shown that there's a lot of enforcement going on in Southall, a lot of extra resources happening there, and as we showed, there's going to be more work to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone called Christine, who's presenting a petition with 2,409 signatures for debate. Christine?
Madam Mayor, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
May I, just on a very brief point of order, may I, referring to clause 9.9.3 of the Constitution, could I please ask for clarity on who will move and second the response to the petition that's about to be introduced?
I think Councillor Driscoll is going to start the debate and he's also going to sum up. I don't know who's going to second. Is Councillor Mason going to second? Yes. Is that all right?
So that's the response. They will define the response to the petition.
Yes.
Okay.
Other people, there's another person speaking. I think Councillor Conti is also, and Councillor Malcolm is speaking. Okay.
Yep. Well, it's about the response, though.
No, the response is from Councillor Driscoll,
okay.
And of course they'll go away and think about it, but I'll leave Councillor Driscoll to answer that himself.
Thank you.
Okay, 2,409 people.
Good evening, council members and fellow community members. I'm here on behalf of the Greenford South and Greenford Town Centre community, a community that has made its position clear time and time again. We do not support controlled parking zones. We thank you for pressing pause on the current CPZ proposal. That was the right decision, following a consultation that, despite its limitations, still showed a significant lack of support. But let's not forget, this isn't the first time we've had to say no. In 2017, a CPZ consultation was also brought to this community, and 93% of respondents opposed it then. This opposition has not wavered. If anything, it has grown stronger, as evidenced by our petition with over 4,000 signatures, as we counted it, both online and hard copies totaled up. Now we need to speak frankly about the consultation process itself. The 2024 consultation did not provide a clear yes or no option. It relied on multiple choice questions that failed to capture the straightforward views of residents. That's why the petition became so important. It gave the community the voice the survey did not. So now, as the council moves into the monitoring phase and considers how to proceed, we are here to outline our expectations. 1. If CPZ is ever considered again, it must not penalise existing residents. We are saying this loud and clear. The Indigenous communities, families who have lived, worked and contributed to Greenford for generations must not bear the brunt of this policy. If parking stress is being driven by new developments, then it is only right that any CPZ conditions should apply to the occupants of those new properties and not long-term residents. That's not just fair, that's common sense. Planning approvals should come with conditions that manage car usage from the onset rather than disrupting existing communities. 2, future proposals must be co-designed with the community. If any new proposal is brought forward, it must start from scratch with us in the room from day one. That means including those representing carers, disabled residents, multi-car households, local business owners, everyone who will be affected. 3, consultation must follow the gunning principles. This means no hidden agendas, no predetermined outcomes, real, early and transparent dialogue with a genuine willingness to change course based on what residents say. 4, acknowledge the history and the data. The 93% opposition in 2017, the 4,000 signature petition, and the lack of clarity in the 2024 consultation must all be formally recognised in any monitoring or reporting. I have reviewed what was posted online, and there's no mention of any of this in documentation. 5, lead with integrity. Don't replicate poor practice. We've seen boroughs that rush through CPZs, including Ealing, only to face public outcry and regret. Ealing can choose a better way, rooted in trust, dialogue, and fairness. We've already spent £71,855 across the borough. Who knows what was spent in 2017? And this is our money, and we don't want it wasted. 6, align development and transport strategy transparently. Your local plan promotes growth, regeneration, and increased housing, and that's understood. But you cannot build new communities without planning for how people will move around. So we ask plainly, what is your long-term plan for car users, especially the existing one? If new developments are going to add pressure, let's see those impact assessments. Let's have honest conversation. Let's ensure planning conditions protect the community and not burden it. In closing, thank you for pausing the CPZ proposal, but now it's time to reset the approach entirely. We want partnership, not pressure. We want policy that is proportionate and fair, and rooted in the reality of everyday lives. And above all, we want decisions made for us, not for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your petition, and I'm going to ask Councillor Driscoll to start the response.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Christina, thank you for coming, and thank you for speaking so clearly and so bring a whole range of different factors on there. So I think I'll start with giving some of the recommendations from the report, which you mentioned you've seen it's online. So to take note of the strong community sentiment against these proposals. So because of that, because there was no predetermined decision, we are not proceeding with the CPZ in Greenford, either the south or the city or the town centre one. Continue monitoring parking pressure, particularly in the identified high occupancy streets. There's a whole list of streets which have very high occupancy, quite a few over 100% and some significantly above 100%. And for those who are unfamiliar with the phrase of parking occupancy over 100%, that means illegal, unsafe parking. Continue to engage with residents and businesses to develop community supported solutions, which I welcome to do. Our transport strategy, I attended the transport strategy consultation meeting in Greenford, and thank you to all of the Greenford residents that went there. So it would be great if those had strong feelings about CPZ also attended that meeting, but I attended that meeting and deliberately went there to see what the comments were from the residents in Greenford. Enhanced parking enforcement in locations with high parking pressures. So this is one of the requests that came part of the correspondence, part of the comments from the consultation, to make sure that we do enforcement as an alternative to CPZs. So you'll have to think where you've got illegal parking, obstructive parking, unsafe parking, then residents will say, well, we want you to come in and do the enforcement. So we'll take that lead and go and do that enforcement. So you've mentioned several things in your comments there about what are we doing about planning. There's quite a regular arrangement with new buildings. Often the transport provisions for those buildings is looked at very carefully, and very often, and it's on a case-by-case basis, it might be a no-car development. That is not uncommon. That already exists. Carers and disabled, we already have, and as I was at the public meeting with you, in the CPZ consultation period, I already said there, we offer permits for both formal and informal carers. All they need is a GP letter and the vehicle details, and at cost of £10 for 12 months. I think that's exceptionally reasonable. £10 cost for a permit for carers, and for whether they're formal carers or family carers. I mentioned there was no predetermined decisions. I said that in the public meeting. I said it when questions were presented to council before, and I say it again now, because if there was predetermined, I'd be giving you a different answer now. So quite clearly, we did a consultation, we listened to it, and that was the theme. We listened to what people say. We had a whole range of different comments, and they came in different varieties. I mentioned at the last council meeting, there was a petition from a couple of streets to have a CPZ. We know that there's some streets that had a significant number of people that wanted a CPZ, but overall we decided not to proceed. But we have listened, we have acted, and there was no predetermined determination. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Councillor Mason.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, just on procedure, I'm sure Councillor Driscoll will want to formally move the response.
And if I formally move the response, thank you.
And I, if my time could be reset, and I shall formally second. So, Christina, thank you so much for bringing your petition. It is community-minded residents like yourself that are incredibly important to the future of our borough, because it's people like you, unlike, unfortunately, the small minority of drivers who make the borough's residents a little bit less positive than they should be, who really do contribute to our debate. We talk about ourselves as a borough being open, inclusive and transparent, open about the challenges that we know that we face, transparent about the solutions that we need to design, but also inclusive in the way that we make those decisions. So we have to be open that parking pressures across the borough are a challenge. And as Councillor Driscoll has set out, we consistently review all of the borough to ensure that we understand where there are parking pressures. And as you can imagine, there are parking pressures in areas around train stations, particularly Crossrail, but also in other parts of the borough too, perhaps where there isn't as much public transport, but nevertheless people rely on their cars. And we will periodically talk to the public about making sure that we're responding to those situations. And so, yes, 8 years later, we did go to Greenford and say, is it now time for us to be looking at enforcement action through way of the controlled parking zone? Greenford said no, so we're not going to do it. It's as simple and as fundamental as that. Despite what perhaps some people might assume, we are living the absolute commitments that we made in the Active Travel Charter, the Travel in Ealing Charter. That is that we will co-design solutions with residents, that there isn't always a simple yes-no answer about how we tackle individual problems, but that we will be absolutely open to designing and listening and engaging with residents when those challenges happen. That also means, of course, being responsive when people say no. So, Christina, hearing you give your recommendations, it's a bit like reading our report, because they're all absolutely straightforward and sensible. As Councillor Driscoll says, and rightly, one of the ones that you've identified is incredibly important, which is when we do have new development, that we do, as much as we can, ensure that they are zero-car developments. The challenge with that scenario is we can determine as many of the new developments to be zero-car as possible, but if they are not surrounded by controlled parking zones, it renders that solution, unfortunately, not so useful. We cannot deprive somebody's liberty from owning a car if they can reasonably park it in the areas around them. We can do that through the planning process, but we will continue to develop those solutions. We are plagued, unfortunately, by an epidemic of pavement parking and of parking in cycle lanes, and of course, people parking in places that they shouldn't be. Fire engines that obstruct our bin lorries. That is the small minority of drivers in this borough and from outside. We do want to periodically address it, but we will always listen to residents when they tell us that our solution might not be the right one.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Now we've got Councillor Gary Malcolm.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, let me thank Christina and all the many of thousands of people who signed the petition. We believe that local residents, businesses and other groups in communities should always have the chance to raise their concerns and views about local issues like CPZs, whether it's to introduce one, change one, cancel one, or via a petition like this at full council. Personally, I cycle and use public transport, but I see many people who are residents of mine, who are carers, teachers, and otherwise they need their cars for their businesses. Liberal Democrats believe that residents' feedback is crucial before any CPZ scheme comes in or is altered, And if there are problems after introduction, they should be quick to alter them, and that often doesn't happen in the council. What we sometimes see is schemes can be introduced if there is an opposition. In this case, the opposition was very strong, and I think that sent a very clear message to the council. When I spoke to the officers last week, I was very glad that they were clear as well with what you were saying and the reasons behind why you're against the current proposal. The CPZ timing changes, which came out at a similar time, showed that the council wanted to force people to have longer CPZ schemes than just the 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the afternoon, which has been mentioned before. They work quite well in nearly all those places. And it seems a strange decision to try and consult on those and then make some of those changes. I think you've raised some very good points about the CPZ consultation process. And I know Councillor Ball, in a similar situation, raised the idea that there should be a yes-no. That's clear for residents, businesses and council officers. Without that option, it can be difficult to interpret a result where it's sort of 45%, 55% for or against. So I think, Madam Mayor, the Lib Dems are happy with the council in terms of what they've made encompassing the results that have been done here, but there are changes to be made for future consultations so they're fairer for residents.
Thank you, Councillor Malcolm. Now we've got Councillor Conti.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Let me start by congratulating Christina and the residents of Greenford. Residents refused to be ignored and stood up to make their voices heard loud and clear. Now, the results of the CPZ consultation were damning. Just 8% of Greenford residents supported Labour's proposed scheme, 8%, practically identical to the figures from the last consultation. If that doesn't scream, we don't want this, I don't know what does. This is yet another example of how out of touch Ealing's Labour councillors have become. The idea that you were co-designing this scheme is ridiculous. The stress you cause residents by proposing the CPZ and not giving a clear yes-no option. You did not propose other ideas in the consultation to actually truly co-design this. Many, including us, warned again and again that this consultation was flawed from the start, due to your choice to deliberately create an unclear process where residents weren't even given that simple option. As a result, a staggering 21% of responses, 1 in 5, were thrown into limbo and left unclassified. If you really wanted to co-design a solution, you would have run a consultation looking at a range of options and giving residents a clear yes-no option on the form. Let's call it what it was, a sham consultation designed to rubber stamp a decision that Labour wanted them to choose. It was only because of Christina and other residents who were organised and able to mobilise the community that you've been forced to listen. It was a desperate attempt to impose a stealth tax on the people of Greenford. As Christina highlighted, stop wasting taxpayers' money on a scheme that had previously been rejected resoundingly by the community and that no one wanted or no one asked for. I'm glad that you're finally listening. We hope that lessons will be learned and in the future you'll give residents a clear choice when you run consultations.
Next, lastly, we have Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll pick up a couple of those points. When Gary Malcolm says it's difficult to assess a consultation that's 45-55, well, to me, that's maths. So, you know, we're not in the arena of the Brexit referendum, but I think 45-55 is quite clear. So, Councillor Malcolm, I'd look at the maths. We looked at responses. Councillor Conti, I refer you back to the Northfield CPZ consultations. You might know a little bit about Northfields. And proposals went there. The proposals didn't go through several times. They came back and were then endorsed later on. But that was after several consultations. So it clearly shows that there's a history of Labour listening to comments in different locations around the borough. Yes, we asked for different comments. And part of that comments was, please do some more enforcement, because, you know, residents themselves were saying, we recognise there's dangerous parking. We recognise there's unsafe parking, and there's recognised people that are abusing the parking situation. So that's what we took also from the consultation. It's a shame that there weren't more people turning up to the transport consultation that took place in Greenford, that was open for people to contribute. I turned up just because I knew that there was a consultation about the CPZ, so I made sure that I was available and attended. We've got to think about, well, there was a consultation, no predetermined decision. We said that at the outset. I said that in a public meeting, and the results speak for themselves. So I accept CPZ can be controversial. I accept that they're not always accepted, and I accept that there's disagreement. But there's also people that want their CPZ in an area, and there might be their neighbours who don't. But we have to do that consultation. We listened, we got the response, and we acted. There was no predetermination to that decision, and that's what you need to take away from this. 7 years since the last consultation is quite a considerable time. And as Councillor Mason mentioned, without a CPZ, if there's a development and it's a no-car development, there's nothing we can do. We can designate a development no cars, no CPZ permit, and I dealt with that very complaint in a different part of the borough. Residents pointing to a no-car development that was parking and putting pressures on their streets. So we have options, but you need to know what the limitations of those options are. So thank you very much for bringing the petition, and thank you very much for presenting it so well, Christina. Thank you.
Can I thank the petitioner for her adult and grown-up behaviour, unlike the two ladies in front of you. I need to give them some training. Thank you very much. And can we make sure that this petition is noted by the council? Noted? Thank you. Can we note that? Thank you very much. Now we've got the questions from members of the council. Can we try and keep to our 30 minutes so we've got time for the important debate later? So thank you for that. So we're starting with Councillor Oxley to Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Ealing Virtual School is a unique resource that provides vital educational support for Ealing's most vulnerable children, our children in care and our care leavers. Can the leader of the council therefore please explain why Ealing Council, opposed by the National Education Union, is making all the qualified teaching posts in the school redundant and replacing them with council officers?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was quite surprised to receive this question, and I'm responding to it on behalf of Councillor Blacker, because of course this isn't a question that Councillor Oxley has previously asked or indeed indicated that he wished to either by corporate parent. I'm aware he had a conversation yesterday, but of course questions relating to our looked after children are incredibly important to the entirety of this council, and certainly to me as the chair of our corporate parent panel. The framing of the question, I'm afraid, is slightly misleading, as you can imagine. Our virtual in school is incredibly important. It's incredibly important at coordinating and supporting the education for each of our looked after children. And given the huge successes that we have made as a council to ensure that we are only taking into care the children who absolutely need to be taken into care, and that we are instead supporting families and kinship carers with earlier intervention, we have had some great successes in reducing the number of looked after children. That's entirely right. As a consequence, the money that supports looked after children to provide for the virtual school flows to the child. With less young people in our virtual school, the school invariably needs to be designed to meet their needs. And that is exactly what has happened, both in the context of our Ofsted inspection of our children's services in 2024 and to meet with our statutory obligations that are set out by the Department for Education. So the new structure, which is being implemented from the 1st of May, ensures that the school is financially stable, meets the national expectations and remains focused on delivering the right outcomes for young people. The restructure will ensure that we don't just have term time activity, but that we have year-round support, even in the school holidays, to ensure that we are absolutely coordinating the appropriate educational support for each and every one of our looked after children. This is not about cutting services or closing a virtual school, as much as the Liberal Democrats appear to be trying to play politics, unfortunately, with an incredibly important and serious issue. This is about making sure that the virtual school is sustainable and is supporting our looked after children.
Anyone, you want to do a supplementary? Go ahead.
Yes. Just to correct you, we did try to raise an emergency question at the last council meeting, but we were prevented from doing so because it was supposedly in the public domain, although nobody knew about it. So I think that was a fairly lengthy answer. I'm not playing politics, by the way. You know, I care a lot about these cared for children. It's not me that's cutting the service. Let's be clear about that. First of all, I think you just confirmed what I indeed think is already the case, that you are indeed planning to cut the the posts from the Ealing virtual school, and that it will be a virtual school without teaching posts. Great. His policy directly contradicts the policy of Bridget Phillipson, the Secretary of State for Education, who's doing the opposite. She doesn't like unqualified teaching posts in academy schools and wants them replaced by qualified teachers instead.
Can I ask you, Councillor Oxley, to get to your question?
I first want to give a compliment to the council. Ealing's cared for children consistently achieve educational outcomes that surpass national averages. For example, at Key Stage 2, they exceeded national averages by 8%.
We know this, Councillor Oxley, but if you could...
It's important to know that, because
we do know
why
that.
Does the portfolio holder want to jeopardise those outcomes by downgrading the education provided to our most vulnerable children?
I don't really think there was a question there, but if you would like to answer, Councillor Mason, you're welcome.
Madam Mayor, I normally accept the conjecture and the knockabout that happens in this chamber on things which are political issues. On the question of the children who are in our care, to which each and every single member of this council is a corporate parent, including the grinning Councillor Ball down at the end of the row of chairs there, and you, Councillor Oxley, is that we all have collective responsibility. And I have to say, if as a member of the corporate parent panel, you believe that rather than raising this issue and seeking clarification either from the portfolio leader, the portfolio holder, the chair of the corporate parenting panel, or indeed any of our staff who work to support our looked after children, is a subsidiary issue to you raising it as an emergency question at a full council, you must examine your conscience, because that is the worst form of corporate parenting behaviour, perhaps that I have seen in my 14 years on this council. Shame on you. The reality of the situation, and if you had spent some time understanding the function of corporate parenting and indeed the virtual school, that you will know that the virtual school teachers are not educationalists, right? They do not involve themselves in the process of teaching children education. They are there to coordinate all of the responses, and whether it's foster parents, whether it is the people for whom the children are in the temporary care, whether it is teachers, whether it's support staff, they are there to ensure that each and every looked after child has an effective personal education plan and that it is being effectively implemented. We have 50% less looked after children in our care today than we did have a few short years ago, because the method of practice that we are delivering as a council is at the cutting edge of ensuring that we are intervening at the right stage with families upstream to prevent children from having to go into care. But we appreciate that when they do, when we ultimately have to take such a difficult decision as breaking up a family and putting into our care as a council a young person, that their education cannot suffer and is top notch. It is why we have the best education outcomes anywhere in the country for our looked after children going into higher education. Whilst we still have some stubborn issues, of course, with young people who are full of trauma at having to go through such difficult circumstances, but we are doing that with an effective, efficient and modernised virtual school. And Councillor Oxley, I implore you, this is not the environment to be trading blows on such an important issue. I invite you to meet with me. I invite you to meet with the director. I invite you to meet with the virtual school teacher and as many people as that you could possibly want to meet to get to the bottom of this issue. That is open to you, and we will give you the unvarnished full truth. The time is for you to take your corporate parenting responsibility seriously.
Councillor Bacalini to Councillor Hassani.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could the portfolio holder provide an update on Ealing becoming a borough of sanctuary? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bacalini. I'm delighted to stand here today to announce that we've officially become a borough of sanctuary. It's great news. And earlier today, Madam Mayor and I were at our launch event, which we hosted with refugee communities in Ealing. This accreditation is a testament to the compassion and inclusivity that define our borough, and a declaration that Ealing is a welcoming place for all. Our 7 towns tell the story of countless generations of families who have made the move to our borough, whether seeking out a better life and better opportunities, or having had to make the sacrifice to upend their lives because they're fleeing war or persecution. For me, this piece of work is quite personal, because I know what it means to flee and leave behind a home that's no longer safe. And I know firsthand that refuge is more than shelter. It's being met with kindness and being given an opportunity to rebuild and contribute. And I feel a very personal connection to this work, but I also know that it is very complex, can be divisive, and we must keep raising the profile of the important issues connected to the sanctuary and refugees. And that's why I'm also pleased to announce that the leader of the council has asked me to be the sanctuary champion for Ealing, to keep the profile of this work high and to work with our officers and VCFS partners to do all we can to collectively be champions for our sanctuary seeking residents. I am dedicated to ensuring that we build a borough of sanctuary that is built on shared humanity and shared responsibility. And in doing that, we will be taking robust political and community-based actions so we can better meet the needs of our sanctuary-seeking residents. And these actions form our new sanctuary strategy, which I know many of you have today, and also you can find it online. And also there is an action plan in there that is really sets out where every director is responsible for taking action to provide a more welcoming space for our residents. The strategy gives us an opportunity to work together, pooling our resources, knowledge and expertise in a coordinated way, ensuring much needed support, advice and information is provided to those most in need. Essentially, we've been doing a lot of this work, but with this work, we're streamlining our services, so actually they're better for all involved. It will mean that we will remove duplication in some cases and coordinate carefully to make sure our responses are the best that they can be. As I said this afternoon, I had the pleasure of launching the event, the sanctuary strategy, and today we just celebrate not just the accomplishment, but actually there's lots of work ahead, and we're committed to that work ahead in the period ahead. Thank you.
Councillor Mohammed, I think you've got a supplementary.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Could portfolio holder give more details on how this accreditation will benefit the borough? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Our Borough of Sanctuary work is a key strand of our connected communities approach, where our vision is to massively increase social connection in the borough, giving everyone more choice and power in their lives as possible. We know that people seek community help and support from the people around them more than sometimes they do from council intervention. People in Ealing are already very active in their communities and are making deep and lasting commitments to each other. When welcomed with compassion, practical help and quick connection, sanctuary seekers quickly become part of that network of support for each other, but also for existing residents and communities. Sanctuary seekers bring unique perspectives, diverse experiences and varied cultural backgrounds, and this promotes mutual understanding, tolerance and respect amongst different social groups. Sanctuary seekers also contribute significantly to local activities and the local economy. Many possess valuable skills and qualifications that add to and sometimes fill gaps in the borough's workforce. And as they settle into their new communities, they become active consumers, contributing to the economy and sometimes establishing businesses. We're also fortunate that we have over 1,000 outstanding voluntary community and faith groups in our borough, and we're grateful so much for their abilities to connect with residents in a way that can be challenging sometimes for larger organisations. We also, so as a tangible commitment, for example, to empowering communities, the council has created a community fund of £100,000 a year for 3 years aimed at increasing resources for grassroots voluntary groups supporting sanctuary seekers. Through the strategy development process, we've reviewed how things are running and found ways to make information and processes work better. We have put the sanctuary strategy through rigorous scrutiny. So there's been 2 reviews at senior leadership team, workshops across the board, and through our scrutiny panels. And ultimately, what this will lead to is better use of our money and resources. Just to be clear, though, that the money that's funding the strategy is all coming from central government. So there is no spending from our core budgets. This is money that comes from the Home Office and MCLG. But it's also helping us, as I said earlier, streamline our processes so they're actually better, they're more efficient, and long term we can support our residents better across the board. And there will be, if you look in the strategy, there are a range of new posts, including a sanctuary housing officer who will be a really dedicated resource to help people going through that transition between, being in a hotel to actually perhaps seeking accommodation in the council. And we've heard that time and time again from our VCFS group, so that is really something that's necessary. And actually, if we've looked at other councils, they've seen that this sort of targeted support is helping reduce homelessness in the sanctuary seeking community. But yes, thank you everyone for your support, and we look forward to seeing how this work pans out. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kumar to Councillor Hussaini.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the Information Day held at the Gurnell Grove Community Centre on Saturday, 15th March, we learned that the council will need to sell assets in order to fund the new Gurnell Leisure Centre. Would the portfolio holder outline which assets are being considered for sale?
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Kumar. And I'm pleased that the community event on the 15th of March was very well attended actually by residents who over a whole afternoon could pop in to speak to our team and ask any questions, and I was there for a while, and it was great to speak to local residents who are so excited about the project. And I think that speaks to our open and inclusive nature when it comes to our engagement on across our projects. On your specific point, a funding strategy for Gurnell is still being developed, and a number of funding sources are being explored. This may include the application of capital receipts from assets and land sales elsewhere in the borough, but at the time there's no specific land and property assets that have been decided other than the land which has gone through planning application in Gurnell, the Gurnell site, which have received, as I said, planning application. Thank you.
Any other questions from the Conservative group?
Yes, I have a supplementary, Madam Mayor. Given that no financial appraisal of the new Gurnell Leisure project was ever approved by Cabinet, would the portfolio holder now define the expected gap between revenue raised from the construction of residential units and the cost of the new leisure centre?
Thank you, Councillor Kumar. As I say, this information will be forthcoming. We will come to Cabinet with the funding strategy in due course. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, next question is from Councillor Kingston to Councillor Driscoll.
Following the Prime Minister's welcome announcement that there will be additional funding for highways, in particular potholes, can the portfolio holder give an update on what work the council is doing to reduce the number of potholes in the borough?
Thank you, Councillor Kingston. So the additional funding from the Department of Transport is very welcome. We will be doing a more responsive service that we will be scoping out, and a quick responsive service. So that'll be about an extra £500,000 worth of funding that will go into that. That's in addition to the other 425,000 that we're also doing for our more regular maintenance of roads. So making sure our roads are fit for purpose for motorists, for cyclists, for all the road users is really vital. So this is a real welcome funding opportunity that we've got here. So we look forward to implementing that very swiftly. Thank you.
Thank you. From Mrs. Midder.
Thank you. Could the portfolio holder update on other work the council is doing to improve highways across the borough?
Thank you, Councillor Midder. So we've got a range of actions that are taking place. We've done the Kensington Road in Northolt as part of an active travel programme with dedicated cycle routes. We've got other plans happening, whether it's in Hanwell, whether it's in the east of the borough or the south of the borough. We've completed work that's happened on the Uxbridge Road as a main artery, and we'll hope to progress that further on. So we've got a whole range of actions that are taking place. So this is in addition to our regular resurfacing programme, which will be forthcoming very shortly. And that resurfacing programme each year addresses major actions across the borough in different wards to following an annual survey of conditions. So we will be still following that work as we do every year to make sure our roads are fit to use. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
The next question is from Councillor Steed to Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Following the announcements in the spring budget by the Labour Chancellor of the Exchequer, can the portfolio holder comment on the likely impact on demand and therefore costs to the council in supporting the most vulnerable in our borough?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Steed. Obviously, early to be making speculation, but I will endeavour to be helpful. The spring statement made clear that the Labour government is reforming our welfare system to make it more sustainable, protecting the most vulnerable and supporting more people back into work where they feel most useful, most valuable to the community. We believe as a Labour government, if you can work, you should be given every opportunity to do so. And if you can't, you should be properly protected. We have begun to fundamentally reform the British state, driving efficiency and productivity across government. We've begun the work of change, restoring stability to our public finances, with interest rates cut 3 times since the Labour government took office. Now, our task here is to work with the government in its effort to resolve the legacy of the Tory economic crisis and support the most vulnerable in the borough. Ealing Council will continue to support those who need our help as the cost of living crisis continues. We continue to support residents through our generous council tax support scheme, where it's estimated that in 25-26 we will provide £32 million to those in our community who most need that support. We've a dedicated cost of living team which works across the borough, making sure residents can access a wide variety of services in their communities. This team continues our work with voluntary and community organisations to monitor changes in demand and work with them to respond appropriately. Given that this government has extended the household support scheme for the whole of 2025-26, unlike the piecemeal extensions that we had the previous government, we'll be able to continue to deliver vital support to our most vulnerable residents. The council has also invested in a data platform that will assist us over the coming months accurately to identify how many people in Ealing will be affected by changes to benefit entitlement. We can then use this data to proactively target alternative support available to those we think will need it most. The platform will also enable us to identify those who will see a reduction in their income, but also have lower barriers to work. This will be key in enabling us to maximise the increase in employment support that will be made available. Getting more people into work will mean that we can move on to focus even more of our resources on our most vulnerable residents.
Is it anybody in the Liberal Democrat group want to have a...
Thank you. I'm delighted that the portfolio holder endeavours to be helpful. It's quite unusual from a Labour portfolio holder, but it is gratefully received. Thank you very much, Councillor Donnelly. And it's interesting that the items you mentioned, and we'll look forward to seeing what happens, the research that takes place from the data platform. Nonetheless, let us not forget the questions coming, councillors. Let us not forget the fact that this Labour government is cutting benefits to the most vulnerable in society, be they poor and disabled people. And specifically, are there any measures that the council are doing to aid those particular groups of vulnerable people? Thank you.
Well, Madam Mayor, I'm reconsidering my entire helpfulness strategy now, and I must speak up on behalf of my colleagues who are uniformly among the most helpful people with whom it's ever been my privilege to work. As far as the question that I think arrived by stealth at the very end of that peroration, I'm not sure really I can add to what I said in my original contribution.
I think we've only got time for one more question, and that's from Councillor D. Martin to Councillor Core. Dagpal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could the portfolio holder provide an update on the Learn Ealing service and the results of its recent Ofsted inspection?
Thank you, Councillor Martin, for your question. We had some fantastic news last month, as following the inspection by Ofsted, our adult learning service has retained its rating of good, with the report outlining elements of outstanding performance in 2 of the 4 inspection areas. This makes us the best adult community learning provider in West London. A huge congratulations has to go to all of our Learn Ealing team for their hard work, and they truly deserve all of the high praise in the Ofsted report. Our Learn Ealing service plays a vital role in helping us upskill and reskill local residents for the good, well-paid jobs we're creating right here in the borough. Growing our local economy, supporting our business community means having a well-skilled workforce that can take advantage of the opportunities we're generating in new and emerging sectors. We set out in 2022 with the target of securing 12,000 learning opportunities for our residents, and the Learn Ealing service has been crucial at getting us to almost 9,000 as we enter the last year of the 4-year plan, so we are well on track to meet our goal. I look forward to continuing to work with and champion our amazing Learn Ealing service. We're looking to open more learning zones over the course of the next year in Perivale, West Ealing and Greenford, as well as our Ealing Skills Hub, making sure our classes are accessible to residents from all 7 of our towns, helping to prepare our residents for the jobs of the future. Thank you.
So P. Anand, I believe you got a supplementary.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Does the portfolio holder share my excitement about the government's plans for upskilling and reskilling Britain's workforce?
Thank you, Councillor Anand, for your question. It is refreshing to finally have a government committed to ensuring that working people have access to support and training to upskill and reskill themselves for the jobs of the future. Committing to devolving powers further to regions, helping them focus on the sectors and skills that their populations need, making sure that employers can access a labour market that can grow their businesses, and workers can access good local jobs that pay them a living wage. We have a government committed to ensuring that young people have routes into the workplace, modernising the school curriculum, focusing on reforming post-16 education, creating high-quality apprenticeships and training opportunities, and providing diverse routes into work. In Ealing, we are already making sure that we have a workforce that is skilled for the jobs that we are creating. We want to ensure that the jobs created in new emerging industries like life sciences are accessible to local residents so they can work and earn a decent living income where they live. I look forward to continuing to work with the new government as we continue to build a local, strong economy with a skilled local workforce to create economic growth for all 7 of our boroughs' towns.
Thank you. Question 7 will go on. Thank you. That brings us to the main debate on the council's annual plan, and I'll call on Councillor Mason to introduce this.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In 2022, Ealing once again put its trust in the Labour Party. And for a 4th and final time in this administration, today we set out plans to deliver on the mandate that we were given, to bring good jobs back to our borough, take firm action on climate change, and to fight inequality. Doing that in the spirit of being open, inclusive and transparent, with the hope, the creativity and the focus on change that we know that we need to deliver as a council for our residents. But doing so with a ruthless focus on efficiency, on productivity and delivering value for the taxpayer. We have done all of that in difficult circumstances. We knew then about austerity, we knew about COVID, we knew about inequality. But I don't think we could possibly have imagined that Russia's war in Ukraine would still have lasted this long, that Liz Truss would bring our economy to its knees, that the US would re-elect Donald Trump, or indeed that his reckless and deliberate crashing of the markets would wipe £4 trillion, pounds even, in value from the global economy in just the last 7 years. Why does this matter? Well, it matters because it impacts the price our residents pay for their energy bills. It determines the cost of the weekly shop. It sets the availability of mortgages at rates that people can afford and the costs of rents that are being jacked up as a consequence. Throughout that time, Ealing Labour has delivered. In the last year alone, on jobs, up to 9,000 in our target. 90 businesses now with living wage accreditation and 1,591 new apprenticeships. On climate, we've invested 7.4 million in active travel. We've opened Pear Tree Park and have delivered now and planted 40,500 trees. On inequality, we have published our annual Health in the Borough report, setting out the continual improvement we need to make for the health of our residents. We have secured the Borough of Sanctuary status, and we have set out and continue to work on the outcomes of our Race Equality Commission. The residents agree with our progress. The residents' survey shows, as it did the year before, that the overwhelming majority of residents, 90%, are satisfied with their local area as a place to live. 80% are satisfied with the way that the council runs things. 87% agree that their local area is a place where people from different backgrounds get on well together. And 72% agree that the council provides value for money. The priorities of local people are our priority too. 39% of people identified safety as their key concern. And it's why we're investing a further £1 million in the year ahead into making public spaces safer and well lit. 34% of people identified affordable housing, and it's why we are keeping up securing the record levels of affordable homes through our platinum planning service, with the best outcomes than anywhere else in London. 27% of our residents set out that they want activities for young people, and it's why we are delivering a full programme out of our young adult centre in Southall and extending our outreach across the borough. There is more work to do, as there always is. And whilst we can take pride in our achievements, we know that we are but the temporary custodians of our borough. And whilst Councillor Conti might think that it's entirely wrong that we should ask residents what they believe should happen every 8 years, we, of course, in administration, embrace the challenge that we will have in the year ahead to regain a 5th mandate for our administration. Because we know that there is still so much work to do. And as our economy improves with the interventions that we are making to bring opportunity to every part of our borough, and that the change that we can make now together with Labour in government, a Labour mayor and a Labour council will be infinitely greater in our impact than we have been able to achieve in the past 14 years of a failed and disgraced Conservative Party, and of course the Liberal Democrats that began that entire process. As we continue to grow the pride, the identity and the purpose in every community across our 7 towns. In 2026, in just a few short months, there will be a choice. And as our minds turn towards making new commitments and promises, we ask the people of Ealing once again to judge us on our record. Being open, transparent and inclusive about the decisions that we continue to make, and being hopeful for the future. Creative about what we want to deliver for all parts of our borough, and the change that we know that we need to secure. In the coming debate, Cabinet members and the Labour group will put forward not just the things that we have set out to achieve in our final year in this term, but also the successes that we have delivered against the priorities of the people of Ealing. 12 months' time, it will be their choice and their right to determine the future direction of our borough. And we hope we will work hard to ensure that their priorities remain our priorities and that we deliver against everything that we said that we would do and the things that we will continue to deliver on their behalf too. I move the motion.
Councillor Brett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I second the plan tonight. I am proud to speak in support of this year's council plan. As we've already heard from Councillor Mason, tonight is an opportunity to reflect on the incredible progress we've made over the past year and to share our vision for the year ahead, even under the difficult economic circumstances that we face. Over the past decade, inequality has continued to grow across the country, and unfortunately, Ealing has been no exception. As a portfolio holder, I have seen this most acutely in the ongoing housing crisis. Just last summer, we had 280 households in our borough living in hotels, insecure and unsuitable arrangements for families in need of somewhere to live. I'm pleased to say that today, this number has been reduced to just a handful. Many of these families now have moved on to appropriate long-term housing, secure homes that offer the dignity and stability they deserve. This didn't happen by accident. It happened because we chose to invest over 20 million to create almost 100 safe and secure places for our homeless households. We have made a conscious decision to move away from costly, short-term fixes like hotels and B&Bs, and instead focus on building and securing better housing options that provide real and lasting support. But we haven't stopped there. We have already secured a further 150 million to acquire even more accommodation. Not only does this help relieve the financial pressures on the council, but more importantly, it means that we can provide better quality, more stable homes for our most vulnerable residents. Since 2022, we've invested over 250 million in council housing stock, from essential small repairs to full kitchen refurbs and bathroom refurbishments, ensuring that our homes are places that people feel proud to live in and where families can grow and thrive. But as proud as we are of our progress, we know there's still so much more to do. In the year ahead, we are launching our Private Rented Sectors Association, an important new initiative designed to support and empower private renters. We want to ensure that our residents know their rights and are protected from rogue landlords, and we are committed to raising standards across the board, as is our new Labour government. We're also investing 25 million specifically to tackle issues like damp and mould in council homes, issues that can have serious impact on health and well-being, and we are determined to put that right. We're working closely with Councillor Manro and colleagues across housing and regen teams to publish a new housing strategy, our blueprint on how we intend to address the housing crisis head on. Also, we are currently carrying out a stock condition survey across our portfolio. This analysis will enable us to focus our budgets on improvements and refurbishments that we will make the greatest impact. Together, we have made significant strides, and we are not slowing down. We are building a borough where every resident has the opportunity to live in a good quality home, and we won't rest until that goal is a reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gary Malcolm.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It seems strange that the Labour Council is trying to launch another reset with its 2 annual plan meetings in 1 year, when this was meant to be scheduled, I think, this coming October. But residents continue to be hit by a double Labour whammy, national and local. So going through the national sections first, we see even tonight the finance portfolio holder rubber stamped some of the welfare cuts that his National Party are undertaking as we speak. Looking at some of the redefinitions of some of those benefits, we can see many of the losers. Hundreds of local residents will lose out each year as the government essentially say to some people, you're too young to be disabled. Many adults with severe disabilities will see their support ripped away from them. And so it's likely that there are going to be many, many more children growing up in poverty. The announcement about Heathrow expansion a few months ago was raised by Councillor Steed in a question. And previously, the Labour Party locally had moved to a strong position, the same as the Liberal Democrats, which is to be against Heathrow expansion locally, regionally and nationally. However, sitting on the fence at this stage is actually not the right approach to take. You should be here for residents in West London, not waiting for the Chancellor or your ministers to make a decision for you. Labour nationally have raised taxes for many, many residents and national insurance increases for businesses. Almost no one will get out in the next few months without feeling the pinch if they haven't already. We've got the lowest investment amongst G7 countries. Growth was meant to be one of those things that you were going to focus your attention on. Growth is totally stagnant, with the future predictions and forecasts are worse than they were a few months ago. So if this was meant to be your focus, you are not achieving it. So then if we go on to local areas where you have a bit more control, you're cutting many children's centres that people love. And yet the Lib Dems came up with an amendment which would have saved that. And it's a shame that you're willing and wanting to cut children's centres. There are many plans that are hidden in some of the consultations that you're doing, and a number of the adult day centres will fall, serving many vulnerable users who really love them. When I look back at the HAS meeting on the council's YouTube channel, for about half an hour there, that was an interesting knockabout, and it really comes clear there's a number of services that are going to change, but you don't quite want to tell people up front. Councillor Brett, you talked about mould and damp, and I've spoke about that for many years, and I know you were not the portfolio holder many years ago, but ombudsman after ombudsman case against the council has said we need to make changes internally. Why are those changes still not happening at the rate that they needed to? These are tenants who are suffering. If you've been in one of those houses, you would not send your worst enemy in there. You cannot live in there with children. You've got dirty streets because you were suspending deep cleansing for many months. You've got the fly tip collection rate, which I think the portfolio holder mentioned, but only 49% of them were collected within the adequate timescale over the last quarter. You're making it more difficult for people and residents to recycle or more costly. We've heard from the residents about Lamas Park. Half of that park is not usable. When I was out this weekend in Walpole and Ealing Broadway and I was speaking to residents, many people in and around Lamas Park said they moved there because they loved the parks. They thought they were beautiful for their children. However, now a number of them have estate agency boards in their gardens. They're willing to move out. They don't want to, but they now feel they have to. So you also closed the well-loved Perivale Golf Course, which helped many people from a whole range of demographics. And actually, that would have been the sort of thing I would have thought the Labour Party would have supported. And then another element, you seem to be forcing out Ealing Community Transport, ECT, the one that was in that video, the green buses, as one councillor raised. So you're going to close some day centres, and then the ECC transport that users need to get there, what next? So then we come to the opposition and the Liberal Democrats. We stood up successfully with 25,000 petitioners and many local campaigners to successfully fight to protect Warren Farm. People were concerned at Warren Farm. I've been to Warren Farm many times. I can walk you around it. To protect the wildlife there, the endangered.
Can we have one
wildlife,
meeting, please?
To protect the 20 or more species that are urgent, nationally, regionally or locally. And for 2 years, it took the council to backtrack on where it started that journey on. And they should have just listened to people at the beginning and then just made the right decision. And everyone would have liked that. But now people are a bit cynical about whether you actually will do what you promised to do. We force you to reverse the light dimming that Labour brought in a number of years previously. We've fought successfully with many other campaigners to remove the threat to many of the MOLs within the local plan consultation and limit the height of some future applications. We forced the council to take seriously the issues about Meath Court and other similar courts. That was a tragedy when we went to visit a number of those sites where we saw an attempted rape being recorded, being shown to us, some of the testimony. We saw from the 4th floor someone had been pushed off, and it was a shame that you take it so. You need to refocus and get the basics right, and I will sum up now. Labour continues locally to deliver disappointingly. You've been here for 15 years and people want change.
The next speaker is Councillor Kamaljit Nagpal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In 2022, we made a bold promise to secure 10,000 new jobs in Ealing over 4 years. We've already delivered almost 9,000, and I look forward to hitting that milestone of 10,000 new jobs in the year ahead. Our goal is simple: ensure every resident can access a well-paid job close to home in a local economy that grows from within. Over the past year, we've made strong progress. We've launched Ealing's Jobs and Skills Strategy and the Economy After 6 PM strategy, focusing on high growth sectors in creative and digital industries, life sciences, and the green and circular economy. Our recently launched Creative Sector Forum has quickly become a platform for collaboration and opportunity, and I look forward to seeing it go from strength to strength. And this year, we'll be progressing the re-accreditation of our Creative Enterprise Zone, strengthening Acton's place as a hub for creative industries. This year, we'll also launch our Life Sciences Forum and Green Economy Forum, bringing together industry, academia, and innovation. We're making sure our young people and job seekers are ready for these opportunities. Last year, we helped create over 1,500 apprenticeships, and this year, we're launching an external scheme to support even more. We're also developing a borough-wide work experience model, and our Greenford Innovation Partnership is connecting businesses and schools to create real-world opportunities. A strong local economy also depends on strong local businesses. That's why we're delivering more affordable workspace across all of our 7 towns. This year, we'll publish our affordable workspace strategy, helping more entrepreneurs and small businesses get their start right here in Ealing. We're also focused on supporting those with the toughest barriers to employment. So far, we've helped residents who are long-term unemployed or at risk of homelessness to get back on track. This year, we'll support another 2,000, focusing on those in temporary accommodation, young people with disabilities, rough sleepers, care leavers, and young offenders. And we're making sure that Ealing's residents are paid fairly. Nearly 1,000 workers have already received a pay rise thanks to our campaign encouraging businesses to become accredited London Living Wage employers. We recently held our Living Wage Awards at the University of West London, celebrating the brilliant employers who are leading the way, and I look forward to seeing many join them in becoming accredited in the year ahead. Thank you.
You next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Here we are responding to the delivery plan. Labour's still in control of the council, has been since 2010. We've had the same London mayor since 2016, one who shows very little interest in Ealing or even in West London. And we have a new GLA member who seems perfectly happy that the public have no idea at all what the GLA actually does. And of course, there's a new Labour government, that great Labour utopia we kept being promised. And that's where things circle back. Because within 50 yards of where I'm standing, there is a shopkeeper who has suddenly been hit by a 30% increase in business rates and a 2% hike in national insurance. That shop might have to close, jobs will be lost, and workers will inevitably have to seek help from the public purse. And that, Madam Mayor, is a very strange concept of economic growth. Now, they will say that this is a national government thing, not their fault. But even tonight, I've heard them blaming the Tory government for shortcomings. Madam Mayor, I was expecting a whole new energy in this plan, but it's startling for its thunderous lack of ambition. On those issues which people have genuine concern, the blights of crime, shoplifting, ASB, violence against women, we're promised more of the same, nothing very much new. Now on climate action, we'll be happy to see 9,000 more trees planted, but without an associated maintenance strategy, trees can become a dangerous nuisance. Every councillor witnesses the epidemic of fly tipping. Mattresses dumped everywhere. Now, we've heard about it in Southall tonight, but it's everywhere in the borough. Yet we're promised a targeted educational campaign. That's fine. But what we really need is a robust and imaginative and innovative programme of enforcement. Now, I remember being in full agreement with the previous portfolio holder's well-organised plan to prevent vehicle idling. It was an extraordinary sort of meeting of the minds. Yet we're now told blandly that the work is done, the problem is solved. And the real thing is that they can't do anything about it and they've given up. We've been waiting some time for the delivery of a private renters association. Now, we know it's apparently coming in autumn this year. It's also blithely claimed that the backlog of applications for private landlord licenses will be cleared this year. I'll believe that. And there will be 100% coverage across the borough. But as I've said before, it's not good for the council to be talking about rogue landlords. You should be using the council's convening powers to bolster the private rented sector. Landlords are selling in droves, leading to a record number of evictions and increased demand for emergency housing. Now, the 25-26 deliverables in good growth are full of good intentions, as they say. And I look forward to the completed examination in public process for the community infrastructure levy. And I look forward to the publication of the long-trumpeted local plan. I'm genuinely happy, and I really am happy, that Ealing is being promoted as a great place to live and to invest. But the deliverables in the plan, just read them, weirdly exclude any ambition to actually build new affordable homes. I'm sure you're going to shout me down. But that should be a right, left, and centre priority for Ealing Labour. And there's a terrible spectre hanging over planning, which is namely the John Lewis Partnership Planning Appeal, which the council declined to attend, and which may yet bring about a massive building with tall towers, virtually no affordable housing, against every stated principle of this administration. Madam Mayor, thousands of Ealing residents are waiting with bated breath for progress on the new Gurnell Leisure Centre. But as we've heard tonight, there are innumerable financial unknowns yet to be addressed. Madam Mayor, we Conservatives are more than happy to contribute to the Your Voice, Your Town programme, or now as it's called, Town Teams, in the new parlance. It's a fine thing for residents to have a genuine local platform to air their concerns, but we still don't know anything about the proposed constitutions, because they may vary town to town, and spending powers. Madam Mayor, I genuinely find the idea of a regional park exciting, connecting green spaces along the Brent River. But when I visited Pear Tree Park, as it's now called, I was so bitterly disappointed. What once was the Perivale Park Golf Club, a real thriving community, was now an empty space symbolic of Ealing Labour's ambitions. Madam Mayor, these deliverables should be bubbling with excitement in the climate, but they aren't. Ealing Council needs a whole new input, a whole new energy, and it's going to be coming from us. Thank you.
Councillor Moffat.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'd like to also take what I hope is not too early an opportunity to thank you for your fantastic chairing of the council over the last year. What we have heard here is exactly what my residents in Northolt Mandeville want to hear. A council committed not to doing things to residents, but delivering for residents on their priorities, delivering on our 2022 mandate. And that is why 9 out of 10 residents are satisfied with their local area. But when we go out on the doors, when we speak to constituents, we hear they want more, that they want more affordable and quality housing, improved levels of safety, and more activities for young people. So our work is not done, and this plan continues to deliver. In Northolt, 75% of council tenants said their primary concern was the cost of living, and that was 69% of residents renting privately. That's why Ealing Labour and Ealing Council have taken and are taking action on the cost of living by protecting our city-leading council tax exemption scheme. That's something that Councillor Donnelly is doing. And with Your Voice, Your Town, across the borough, we are delivering football pitches, voluntary service, protecting green spaces that mean so much to residents, and providing a library of things to reduce consumption and help Ealing residents with the cost of living. And in Northolt, we've launched dedicated parking for e-bikes and e-scooters to keep them off the pavement, and are delivering vital community assets such as a new culture hub. That's why I'm Labour and why I'm speaking in support of our council plan, because it is delivered for children and young people, whether they are in the 98% of our borough's schools rated good or outstanding by Ofsted, or seeking employment and training through the hundreds of new apprenticeships Councillor Nagpal is delivering on her work to help even more local employers become London Living Wage accredited. And where businesses thrive, so do our communities, because it is the community infrastructure levy introduced by this administration that is funding community priorities directly in our wards. And those thriving communities also need safety. Councillor Anand and Ealing Labour have delivered on our commitment, despite what Councillor Gallant says, to invest £13 million in fighting antisocial behaviour, burglary, violent crime and violence against women. That has ensured greater uniform presence on our streets, and that community safety remains central to what we do. So the council plan finds and secures funding for CCTV monitoring services, funding for street lighting, and funding for street cleansing, because cleaner, safer streets, brighter futures for young people, opportunity for work and businesses, investment in our community, and support when you need it. It's not just our plan, that is our promise.
Thank you. Councillor Kim Nagpal.
Madam Mayor, to fit everything we're achieving in this council plan into 3 minutes is a tough ask, but keeping your stopwatch in mind, I've condensed it down, and even in brief, the scale of our achievements and our ambition is clear. Our council plan is bold and visionary, with the heart of every decision centred on the residents of Ealing. Through Your Voice, Your Town, we've returned power to where it truly belongs, in the hands of our communities. Town teams are now preparing to launch projects that will be shaped by residents and backed by developer funds through our new community infrastructure levy. This is not top-down governance, it's bottom-up grassroots change. We're lighting up our streets with over 1,800 new LED lamps, enhanced CCTV and £13 million invested in tackling crime and antisocial behaviour. We're making every corner of our borough safer. We've consistently taken decisive action, securing public spaces and ensuring that every woman, every child and every family can walk through our streets feeling safe. We're doing more than talking, unlike some of the naysayers on the other side of the room. We're putting care workers on the London living wage. We're investing 100 million into enabling Ealing's residents to live healthy, active and independent lives and ensuring that every service, every strategy fights for healthier, fairer lives for all. But we're not stopping there, Madam Mayor. We're delivering safe and secure homes with 407 million being invested in council housing because we made a promise, decent, affordable and secure homes for all. And our transport programme, it's fixing potholes across Ealing, building cycle lanes and pushing Southall forward, literally. When it comes to the environment, we're not just protecting it, we're rewilding it. With a further 9,000 new trees on the way, a new regional park on the horizon and Pear Tree Park already thriving. We're showing that climate action isn't something for distant governments, it's something we can create here on the ground. And let's talk about the economy. We've built an inclusive economy for all. Ealing Labour partnered with credit unions to launch the London Community Bank, opening doors for affordable credit. We've maximised the Household Support Fund, reaching families who need it most, and we've ended wasteful outsourcing, bringing vital services back under local control to ensure every pound of taxpayer money delivers real value. This is change that works for our residents. Schools and young people? Well, 98% of our schools are rated good or outstanding. We've opened a new youth centre in Southall and we're rebuilding Gurnell Leisure Centre for future generations because a strong start in life isn't a privilege, it's a fundamental right. The results speak for themselves, Madam Mayor, because 90% of Ealing residents are proud of their local area and 80% are satisfied with how this council is running it. This is Ealing, thriving, resilient and proud. And this is Ealing Labour, driving exceptional change together.
Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As this is the last council plan update of this term, a year from now we'll be deep into the election campaign. Tonight is an excellent opportunity to see how the administration is performing. I'll concentrate on regeneration and housing. The majority party in this chamber were elected on a flagship promise to deliver 4,000 new genuinely affordable homes. Not only have they failed to deliver on this promise, but they've abjectly surrendered all hope of doing so, downgrading their target number from 4,000 to 3,000, but also making the test easier for themselves, not even aspiring to deliver 3,000 affordable homes, but working towards starting 3,000 by the start of the next local election campaign. It's a record of failure. Of course, some aspects of the housing landscape are beyond their pay grade. Campaigning to end the pernicious no recourse to public funds rule was another manifesto promise. Like many other members, I've been out with St Mungo's outreach workers to meet people trapped by this inhumane law, a law which the current Labour government shows no sign whatsoever of reforming. Another local commitment was to, quote, fight any attempt by the Tory government to remove the right of local residents to object to developments in local communities or rip up the planning rules to benefit their party donors, end quote. Well, the Tory government didn't get round to doing that, but now Angela Rayner has swallowed the line of the Tory donor big developers hook, line and sinker. She talks about the bold action needed to remove the blockers who put a chokehold on growth. She's talking about ordinary Ealing residents who want to have a say about inappropriate developments in Ealing, Acton or Southall through the democratic process. The Planning and Infrastructure Bill will allow big developers to ride roughshod over local objections and to press ahead with schemes that don't meet the council's affordable housing targets. The true problem is developers' land banking. We need to tackle that failure to build. Use it or lose it needs to be the message. But this administration won't say boo to the Labour government. Their party loyalty trumps standing up for local residents. Councillor Malcolm has already covered the council's own housing stock, where the administration is failing on repairs and mould. So finally, Madam Mayor, the administration is struggling to cope with the homelessness crisis. Allocating £150 million, as Councillor Brett mentioned, to buy properties to be used as temporary housing to free families from unsuitable and expensive hotels was the right thing to do. But 95% of this money lies unspent, while the council continue to spend money hand over fist at travel lodges in and outside London. By contrast, Liberal Democrat Sutton went ahead with a similar plan, plus proactively reaching out to leaseholders and provided both temporary and permanent homes. In conclusion, Ealing Labour are letting residents down on development, repairs and temporary housing. Their performance is simply not up to the standard that our residents deserve.
Councillor Sidhu.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will attempt to keep this short and sweet like myself, but also within your time frame. Over the past 3 years, Ealing Council has been focusing on delivering real improvements for our residents, and we're proud of what's been achieved. Despite the challenges, we've made strong progress in areas that matter most: housing, the environment, and our local services. We've stayed true to our commitment to building a borough that is fairer, greener, and more prosperous. And that vision is not just words, it's being delivered every day. From our record-breaking council house building programme to being ranked top in London for delivering generally affordable homes, we are making sure that housing is no longer a barrier, but a foundation for better lives. We've also made incredible strides on our climate goals. Our journey towards net zero by 2030 is well underway, with retrofitting projects saving hundreds of tonnes in CO2 and our waste service now ranked the second best in London. Cleaner streets, greener homes and a more sustainable future. These aren't pipe dreams, they are a reality. We have brought opportunity closer to our residents through the launch of Ealing Work West and the Retrofit Skills Hub, helping thousands into jobs, training and careers, especially in the green economy. Our youth services, including the fantastic Ealing Youth Council and award-winning detached youth work, are giving our young people the voice, skills and support they deserve. And let's not forget the basics: more trees planted, potholes filled, streetlights upgraded, and 26 playgrounds transformed, because a better borough is built from the ground up. These are not just statistics and empty words. They represent real and lasting change we are delivering for our communities. We know there is more to do, and we are ready for it. With continued ambition and collaboration, we will keep driving Ealing forward for everyone who lives and works here. Together, Ealing Labour is shaping a borough that is fairer, greener, and one we can all be proud to call home. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Baines.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tonight is about taking a clear look at where we are, what's working. We're shifting from policy to delivery. Ealing is moving forward and it's changing lives across our 7 towns. Firstly, we said we take safety seriously, and we have. We've invested 13 million to tackle antisocial behaviour, burglary and violent crime. That includes more patrols, better street lighting, but also support that goes deeper. Mentoring programs in schools, a dedicated gangs and violence unit, and the growing impact of our women's wellness zones. As a woman, I'm proud of this work. Councillor Gallant, we set up the women's wellness zones because we listened. Women told us that they didn't always feel safe, or heard or supported. These zones offer direct access to help, mental health services, advice and space to rebuild confidence. It's prevention with purpose and it's making a difference. We also said we'd put power back into the hands of the local people, and now Through your voice, your town, residents are helping shape their own neighbourhoods. As you've heard, tonight's changes can be made, and we have listened. With the new community infrastructure levy in place, developers' contributions are being invested based on local priorities. From public spaces to green improvements, communities are not just being consulted, they are making decisions that shape where they live. We said we'd build a greener borough, and we are. This year, 9,000 more trees will be planted, and I'm sure Councillor Driscoll will be happy to liaise with Councillor Calland on the choice of trees to be planted, bringing us close to our 4-year target of 50,000 new trees by 2026, with over 40,000 already in the ground. Our School Streets programme is on course too. 43 schemes are already in place, with 7 more coming this year. That's cleaner air, safer journeys and calmer roads outside our schools. We've launched the Library of Things and piloted an ultra-low waste zone to support more sustainable ways of living right here in Ealing. And housing remains one of the biggest challenges, but we're not looking away from it. Through our delivery plan, we've committed 21 million to deliver nearly 100 safe, secure homes for families at risk of eviction. Alongside that, Councillor Ball, we've delivered over 250 supported homes for rough sleepers. This is about stability and dignity and doing what councils are here to do. We know there's more to do, but this is progress which is consistently being delivered by this council, your voice, your town that we are representing. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We've had loads to be proud of this year. In terms of planning, we have ranked within the top 12 planning authorities in the country, providing a platinum decision-making service with 100% of major and 97% of non-major planning applications received being decided on time. We also established our urban design team to ensure good design is at the heart of all development in the borough, including a conservation officer. We published the last set of 20-minute neighbourhood frameworks for Ealing and Hanwell as we look to ensure that residents across our 7 towns can live in a walkable, accessible neighbourhoods. Despite a housing market that continues to be challenging, we're still doing our utmost to boost delivery of more genuinely affordable homes in new developments. In 2024, Ealing was the top borough in terms of our planning committee giving permission for 5,300 new homes, including 1,800 of them being affordable homes. That's just in 2024, and we're top throughout the London boroughs. We've also set up a quarterly registered provider forum to engage with the sector and work in partnership to deliver affordable housings in the borough. And through the planning process, we have secured 40.2% of new build homes in the borough as affordable housing. And yes, Councillor Gallant, we didn't take a decision on Waitrose because they offered 20% affordable homes. And obviously Bromley, your Tory council, accepted 10% and gave them permission. That's the reality of what happens in London. If you're willing to accept more private homes, you get, people will build. We have a big year ahead of us. We're expecting the examination of our local plan over this summer with a goal of adoption later on this year, ensuring that we have strong policies on things that matter to our residents. Sustainability criteria, make sure development in the borough truly benefits local communities. Similarly, we're expecting the community infrastructure levy to be submitted for examination in summer as we continue to move forward with our plans to put more money back into local communities for projects and infrastructure that matters to them. We will also be at the UK Real Estate Infrastructure and Investment Forum in Leeds in May to look for more investment in Ealing. We've already received $3 billion worth of investment in Southall with 2 data centres with 1,000 odd jobs coming in. We've also got to work on a master plan for North Acton in partnership with OPCD and Imperial to ensure the opportunities of the West End Corridor and the West London Productivity Arc deliver for our residents in the borough. As of course, we continue to engage with house builders, developers and affording housing providers to continue to build the genuinely affordable homes that our residents need. Thank you.
Councillor Young.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whilst this annual review allows us to talk about current performance, what is much more interesting is to use this debate to highlight some of the items which have stalled and where progress has been, shall we say, snail-like. It's about 12 years ago now that this administration made a decision to sell a 250-year lease on the Town Hall. This decision faced an appeal to the Charity Commission, which eventually gave its ruling. And that ruling affects us today, as evidenced by the fact we are holding this meeting in Percival House instead of the Town Hall for the second year running. We currently cannot use the Town Hall, even for civic use, let alone for community use or business use. Ealing Council received the ruling from the Charity Commission on the Council's proposals for the Town Hall some 5 years ago now. I'm pleased to say that the first steps have now been taken this year, namely the impending appointment of sufficient independent co-optees so that they form a majority of the Victoria Hall Advisory Committee. But giving the Victoria Hall Advisory Committee a majority of independent members is just the start. Next comes all the hard work, because there are a number of decisions that need to be revisited. In its report, the Charity Commission ruled that the sale of Ealing Town Hall, as proposed, could not go ahead as it stood, because the sale might not be in the best interest of the charity, the Victoria Hall Trust, which owns and in theory manages the Victoria and Princess Halls within the Town Hall. Two parties, the Council and Mastercraft, negotiated the deal. There was nobody in the room acting on behalf of the Victoria Hall Trust. There are a number of ways the Commission notes that the interests of the Council and the charity are in conflict. It notes that a 250-year lease is realistically a permanent disposition of the property. It further notes that there is no evidence that any consideration has been given as to whether the proposals are the best that can be obtained for the charity. Under the protocol, it will be the operator of the hotel who decides who can hire the facilities, not the trustee, and this can be detrimental to the charity. And it goes on to say that the proposals were considered by the General Purposes Committee, acting as trustee in September 2019, which consists entirely of members of the Council and is inherently conflicted. In other words, nothing that has been agreed without an independent trust having its fair say can stand. And that means that all the decisions, the agreement between Mastercraft and the Council, the proposed property swap, even the financial basis for the annual accounts, will all need to be revisited. The third party at these discussions will need to be the Trust. The members of the Victoria Hall Advisory Committee reviewing these decisions will need to receive independent advice, and that cannot be Council officers who will necessarily be compromised. The Council should provide a budget to pay for that independent advice, free from Council influence. Madam Mayor, I wonder why we didn't adopt a less confrontational approach to the Friends of the Town of the Victoria Hall. We might have saved us
Time is up
many years.
now, Councillor
Thank you,
Young.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Douglas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm sure colleagues will not be surprised to hear I was thrilled to read the results of the 2024 resident survey. Acton is officially the most satisfied borough, the most satisfied town in the borough, with 96% of residents satisfied with their local area. And 87% satisfied with the council as a whole. It's of course an honour to hear that so many of our residents appreciate what we do and the decisions we make on their behalf. And let's be clear, the good people of Acton are satisfied because we have delivered an incredible amount already and they believe in our plan for the future. But what have we achieved in the past year for the people of Acton to make them so satisfied? Well, for starters, we have continued to deliver on our promise of providing affordable homes, with new phases of Acton Gardens in development now in progress, which will soon deliver its 1,000th affordable home. Building is also progressing on the new tower blocks on Steen Road, which will deliver hundreds of genuinely affordable homes, with many specifically designed for families and older people. Access to affordable homes was the biggest concern to households in Acton. We're already doing the work to ensure that that is addressed. Understandably, personal safety after dark was also highlighted as an issue. As a young woman, I can understand that worry, but as a council, we're doing what we can, investing 13 million to tackle crime and make our streets safer. We've improved street lighting and installed more CCTV cameras across Acton. And I know the environment is an incredibly important issue for young people in particular, As perhaps, and I mean no offence, one of the youngest people in the room right now, I can relate and think it's important that their concerns are addressed. In Acton, we've now installed 150 electric car charging points and a number of bike hangers. There are now 6 schools in Acton participating in the School Street scheme. These changes will make a difference to not just the planet, but the health and well-being of local people. Finally, I'd like to say thanks to Councillor Hashani and all the officers who've worked hard to achieve our Borough of Sanctuary status. It's a fantastic achievement. We know that Ealing welcomes people with open arms, and it's great to have that officially recognised. And just finally, I'm looking forward to seeing the incredible things we're going to deliver in the forthcoming year. Thank you.
Councillor Steed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I intend to talk about Ealing Community Transport. It's a sad story indeed, but it's a story that actually this time next year, when we all go to vote, may well be of some significance. It is quite likely that due to the council increasing the rent on their Greenford site, a company founded in Ealing and who have served the council and many vulnerable people and residents of Ealing for 45 years, they may be forced to leave Ealing. As many of you know, they provide school transport, dial-a-ride, services for other charities such as Age UK, and general transport for those who have hospital and medical appointments, and indeed those using council facilities at Cowgate Centre and the Michael Flanders Centre. Over half of disabled people state that they face barriers to access, with transport the most commonly cited reason. Living independent lives is important, the ability to shop, the most basic needs vital, and for many the journey itself is also crucial as it provides the week's only social interaction. 78% of service users agreed that Ealing Community Transport had improved the feeling of being connected to others and thus less lonely. 56% agreed Ealing Community Transport improved their ability to be independent. 66% agreed using Ealing Community Transport improved their ability to access local facilities. 49% agreed using Ealing Community Transport improved their ability to be confident to travel. There's no doubt they provide a crucial service. I can confidently predict that many of us here will know residents in their wards who use the service. My understanding is that a dialogue of sorts has been going on for some time between ECT and council officers or their agents. I say dialogue, despite attempts to engage with officers, they have had little or no constructive discussions about the viability of their operation following their failure to retain some school services which recently went out to tender. Faced with an annual rent increase of £95,000, an increase of 150%, ECT have had to increase the cost of their services. Meanwhile, to add insult to injury, the largest charity in the borough has also been asked to accept the increase is also backdated for 2 years. ECT sent letters to 15 Labour councillors and the 3 Ealing Labour MPs last week. As of last Sunday, they had received responses from James Murray only. There appears to be no urgency from officers to ensure service continuity. This is of a huge concern, as following the folding of Hounslow Community Service, there is a worry that no one will be able to step in who can replicate the services of that provided by Ealing Community Transport. I'll be very interested to know the response of the portfolio holders to this pressing social problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you may know, it's been a long time since I have risen to my feet to make a speech in full council. This is not because I have any medical, I'm coming to you, and this is not because I have any medical impediments, but I felt it's not worth pouring more scorn on the opposition parties, as I may start to feel sorry for them and their predicament of being a severely weak opposition. Madam Mayor, I'm going to try to change tack tonight and try to make this a positive speech. But before I do that, I really have to say the level of debate and ideas coming from both opposition parties tonight, and particularly at the recent budget meeting, was so poor. So poor they belong in the equivalent of a political workhouse. Madam Mayor, Turning to a positive note, I'm pleased to stand here and say it has been a long time since I can say the grown-ups are in charge, not only in Ealing and London, but thankfully right across the country since last summer. Now Labour are actually implementing policies to improve everyone's lives and not just the higher taxpayers. I'm glad we have serious politicians in charge because these are very serious times with Putin's warmongering and Trump's disastrous economic policies. Does Trump make Liz Truss's calamitous economic policies look like small fry, as she only wrecked one country's economy? Madam Mayor, I said I wanted to be positive tonight, and there is lots to be positive about in Ealing. So I would like to thank the leader and cabinet members for their incredible hard work. I would also like to thank the rest of our Labour councillors who scrutinise and hold the cabinet to account, unlike the weak opposition parties. How do I know a good job is being done well? I don't have to look any further than the annual residents survey, and I would like to concentrate on Hanwell. What a great place to live. On most major metrics, Hanwell rates the highest or near highest. Hanwell residents are highly satisfied with their local area and how the council run things. Also, the levels of value for money and how we keep them updated with council services and benefits. Of course, there are things we can do better, and we will. The survey points out Hanwell is where people feel safest at night. We also have the highest results for residents pulling together to improve their area. This can be seen with activities such as Hanwell Hootie, which is of course back this year, and the Hanwell Carnival, which has decided to have a year off to recharge batteries and coffers and go again next year. We love our parks and open spaces, but the aspect from the survey that I'm most proud of is that 86% of people, the highest in the borough, believe that Hanwell is an area where people from different backgrounds get on well together. We even talk to Tories, I'm told. Maybe these are all reasons why more than 10% of the councillors here tonight make Hanwell their home. Madam Mayor, I could go on, but I won't, as I may be in danger of talking up house prices in Hanwell. Madam Mayor, I would like to finish by saying that I hopefully did make a positive speech, however tempting the opposition parties might make it for me to do the opposite. We have exciting times ahead, and I fully support this motion tonight.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm proud to speak in support of this year's council plan, a plan rooted in safer streets, stronger communities and giving power back to local people. Councillor Gallant. Over the past year, we've made real progress in tackling crime and antisocial behaviour. We've invested over 13 million into making our borough safer, funding more uniformed officers on our streets, expanding CCTV monitoring and continuing our commitment to protect women and girls from violence and harassment. Madam Mayor, we've stood firm on our public spaces protection order, tackling street drinking and nuisance behaviour, and we'll go even further with a full consultation to strengthen protections where our communities need them most. Through the Women's Wellness Zone, the AMWalk Action Plan and our work around Mattock Lane, we've shown this council doesn't shy away from tough decisions when it comes to safety, especially for women. I hope you are listening, Councillor Gallant. Madam Mayor, we've already installed 323 new LED street lights and we're delivering 1,500 more, making our neighbourhoods feel safer, brighter and more welcoming. The new Safer Ealing website means residents can now report and access support faster than ever before. Madam Mayor, looking ahead, we'll be launching a new gangs and violent unit within the council, reducing exclusion in keeping young people out of harm's way. Our new Mentors in Violence Prevention program will roll out to every primary school by next year. Early action that stops problems before they even start. We'll also launch Ealing's first hate crime strategy, building on our pioneering partnership work and strengthening our borough's wide multi-faith forum. Madam Mayor, this year we'll expand its reach across partnerships like Safer Ealing and bring more people together through inclusive community-led gatherings. This council plan is about building resilience from the ground up, giving power back to communities and making Ealing a safer, fairer place for everyone. Madam Mayor, Ealing is a borough full of pride and will keep working to make it a place where everyone feels safe, valued and heard.
Councillor Kumar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Council's delivery plan is about our public services, our community, businesses, shaping our homes and green spaces that will define Ealing's future for generations to come. If we are to move forward with the plan that benefits Ealing, we must commit not just today, but throughout the process to a plan shaped by the people, for people in Ealing. And I very much hope your tone, your voice will be able to achieve some of this. The true measure of this plan should be strengthening the fabric of our borough, supporting small businesses, ensuring homes are truly affordable, safeguarding our green spaces and safer communities. Recent surveys have indicated crime isn't just a problem after dark. Residents feel unsafe even during the day, and that can impact our local economy. When people avoid town centres because of safety concerns, businesses also suffer. Labour government tax rises are detrimental to business and growth on a national and local level. Small retailers already struggling face rising incidents of theft and antisocial behaviour, putting workers at risk and discouraging footfall. If businesses close, it creates a domino effect. We lose not just essential services, but also the vibrancy and security that active and well-populated spaces bring. Safety cannot be an afterthought in urban planning. It must be embedded in the local, in the plan. Through measures like more visible policing, more improved street lighting, and I've heard what Councillor Anand has said, more are coming in, and stronger partnerships between businesses and security authorities. Antisocial behaviour must be addressed head-on, ensuring our communities feel safe and supported. Public safety is not just a concern for law enforcement, it is the foundation of a thriving economy, prioritising the well-being and securing the future of local businesses. Fundamentally, our residents deserve a plan that is transparent, one that they can easily understand, access and engage with. At the heart of this plan should be the people it serves. Ealing's future should not be dictated solely by developers or investors. It should be shaped by those who live, work, and contribute to the borough's vibrant character. Residents should not have to struggle to understand planning decisions that direct impact their lives. The local plan must be written in clear, accessible language, avoiding bureaucratic hurdles. As elected representatives, we must ensure the plan is delivered with a firm commitment to serving those who call Ealing home. We certainly
Councillor Wall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I take pleasure in praising Ealing Labour on our performance against our council plan. For 14 years, we've faced enormous challenges, but still managed to balance our budget and maintain consistently strong delivery of the commitments we made to residents, on which our Cabinet members have been rightly extolling tonight. I am grateful to our officers and Cabinet for their collective diligence and skills in ensuring achievement of this. And when considering the predicament of the 7 London boroughs effectively facing bankruptcy this year, I fully appreciate just how effective we have been in Ealing. We know that the majority of Ealing's residents appreciate that too, because our resident survey proves it. They have told us they trust us, believe we deliver value for money, and are strongly satisfied with the way we run things. Madam Mayor, I have been around long enough to remember when the Tories last held this council and conducted their comparative residence survey at the end of 2009, i.e. year 3 of their 4-year term, and the results weren't quite so good for them. After 3 years prioritising safer communities and cleaner streets,
Residents told them antisocial behaviour and litter were still their top concerns and sent them packing the following year. Residents have told us that the cost of living is now their top concern, something to be blamed entirely on the previous Tory government with their botched Brexit, botched budgets and botched austerity, of which local councils like ours have borne the brunt. And despite receiving government grants some 60% higher than we are now comparatively, the Ealing Tories moaned their high funding levels completely failed to recognise the extent of service and financial pressures in Ealing back then. What a different tune they play now, knowing it's their party that inflicted the cuts, but it's not them that has to manage them. The fact that they couldn't even be asked to submit an alternative budget speaks to their incapability of running a borough such as ours. And their record is one of failure. They failed to deliver despite being relatively awash with funds. So awash, they threw £5 million away in their extravagant £50 cashback gimmick, which not only backfired on them, but demonstrated their extreme short-sightedness in the face of their own government's austerity policy lurking just around the corner. Madam Mayor, on all counts, from doing a good job, keeping residents informed, having friendly and polite staff, making Ealing a better place to live, and running the council efficiently and well, our residents have told us we are consistently doing a better job than them. And when debating the council plan last year, Councillor Malcolm said it was important to get the basics right, and then displayed an extraordinary lack of this when presenting the Liberal Democrats' derisible alternative budget. I don't usually agree with Councillor Young, but he did nail it on the head that night when he said the Lib Dems don't think things through. So despite all the rhetoric and waffle from the Tories and Lib Dems tonight, Madam Mayor, we know that although we would really welcome strong opposition from their respective groups, unfortunately they're still not managing it. Madam Mayor, I strongly support the motion tonight.
Councillor Sistamos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mud everywhere. Should you wish to cross the wish to cross a Dryartree or enter Hanger Hill Tube in the middle of the Dryartree, you'll have to traverse the mud-strewn subway to get where you are going, with little scope of avoiding the said mud. The council suspended deep cleaning for several months while its staff redeployed to sweep leaves across the borough. If your part of the borough was leaf strewing in March, still, as was the Dryartree, now the leaves will be decomposing. And add that to the fact that TfL have not cleaned the drains in the subways for months, if not a year, despite being asked for several times. Then when it rains, it's two people. This is what the problem is. The blocked drains will flood, and we have mud, lots of mud that covers the subways across their width, inches deep, that deep. I'm not exaggerating. Not something you want to be greeted with. First, that much mud. And I have the pictures. First thing in the morning on your way to work. How many elderly people felt too unsteady on their feet to venture outside when the streets were strewn with very wet leaves, slippery underfoot, and therefore months on end, getting even more slippery as time went on? Then we come to business. Several months ago, I came across uniformed hotel staff sweeping the subway by Park Royal Tube that goes under the A40. The subway is swept by the borough every 3 months, which simply is not enough for the hotel that is trying to promote and grow its business and wants to make the journey from the tube to their hotel as pleasant as possible for their guests. The local plan sets out to create jobs in the borough, promote business in the borough, but the borough cannot get the simple task of regularly sweeping the subway that leads to hundreds of hotel rooms, with more to come, more than once every 3 months, unless they have suspended that during the leaf season, and there's even more of a stretch between cleaning. The hotel pays hundreds of thousands of pounds in business rates, and they do not feel they're getting the most basic service from the council. Graffiti. Did you know that London Underground will not clean graffiti off its stations unless it's offensive? Graffiti begets graffiti. That is why we have graffiti all over the subways. Can someone have a word with Sadiq and ask him to have the Park Royal Tube Station cleaned of its graffiti?
I've tried. How do these failures promote a clean and, dare I say, a safe environment for Ealing residents? A slippery stairwell strewn with decomposing leaves, cigarette butts leading to a graffiti-scribbled subway that is used by pedestrians, commuters and children on the way to school, not to mention hotel guests newly arrived in London. Has Labour fulfilled its local plan?
I think we're at the end of this. Would Miss Mudd like to sit down? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not quite sure how to follow that. Madam Mayor, it is such a privilege to speak in support of this year's council plan. As portfolio holder for Healthy Equal Lives, I want to start by celebrating some of the highlights of my year. Our reablement service, for example, continues to help people with the transition from hospital back to normal life. I recently met Mrs. Core from Greenford. She'd had a fall, lost her confidence, and was worried that she'd never feel quite safe at home again. Thanks to our team of specialist reablement carers, she's not only back home, but she's hosting the local weekly knit and natter group. We've also built really strong co-production boards. Residents in Ealing aren't just consulted, they're leading, shaping services, making decisions. It's powerful stuff. Recently, I sat on the Learning Disability Partnership Board and heard people from Ealing, Mencap and Impact Theatre questioning TFL management and explained their experiences of using Dial-A-Ride. This was really powerful feedback for them and helped them improve what they do, but powerful too for people to feel listened to and know that their input matters. Tomorrow, I'll be attending an Ealing suicide prevention event. It will convene professional, voluntary sector and those bereaved by suicide to come together and develop our borough-wide action plans to reduce the tragedy of suicide in Ealing. And these are just a few examples of how we are bringing people into where decisions are made. And in the same spirit, the next year will see us double the number of people who can access their care through direct payments, because being able to make your own decisions about your own care should be the foundation of good social care. I really look forward in the next year to continuing work with our brilliant public health team, to support their work to tackle the rise of TB, stop smoking services, to help kids and parents keep their teeth healthy with a visit to the oral health bus, and who make sure everyone has access to sexual health testing, and also develop our drug and alcohol rehab services. We'll launch our carer strategy in the year ahead, helping Ealing's 25,000 carers stay strong, fit and resilient so they can continue to look after their loved ones. And we will work hand in hand with the NHS and government to develop a prevention agenda to end health inequalities, keep us out of hospital and help us all to lead independent lives full of purpose and connection. This plan shows that what's possible when a council trusts its residents, when a council invests in its residents, and when a council works with its residents, not just doing things to them, but doing things with them. And combine that with solid financial management, with faith and belief in local power and local people, acting with hope and optimism and ambition that is rooted in unshakable faith in public service. It is no wonder that people are telling us we do a good job. I am so proud to be part of Ealing. There's just so much to be proud of in our beautiful, diverse, creative and green borough. Ealing Labour is here for everyone, from Greenford to Southall, from Northolt to Acton, from Perivale to Ealing, and I must declare an interest in Hanwell. So I, for one, am really looking forward to the year ahead. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
No casework either. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I support this motion tonight because in Ealing, we continue to take a proactive approach to making a real difference to young people's lives. We're planting the seeds and embedding change. We're breaking the cycle of violence early. We're doing this by rolling out the Mentors in Violence Prevention Programme in primary schools. The programme will enable our young people to have knowledge to confront conflict in all its forms. This programme will provide vital support to young people by connecting children with experienced mentors. We aim to build their confidence and resilience, giving them the tools they need to thrive. Ealing Labour continues to move forward with our young people being our top priority, ensuring a fairer start for all. For years, Ealing Labour has worked tirelessly to create a more inclusive borough for everyone, and we continue to deliver for Ealing with the creation of new cultural hubs across Southall, Acton and Norfolk. These hubs will serve as community spaces where our residents can come together to celebrate and share the many cultures that make our borough unique. These spaces will promote social cohesion and strengthen the sense of belonging, making Ealing a more inclusive and welcoming place. As a Greenford councillor, I'm particularly pleased to see the introduction of learning zones in Greenford, Perivale and Ealing. These zones will provide tailored training and employment support to residents, giving them the skills and opportunities they need to flourish. Madam Mayor, Ealing Labour is proud to continue delivering for Ealing, and we're making real progress in strengthening our community and providing opportunities for all. The council plan will ensure that every resident has a chance to succeed. Thank you.
Councillor Mason, if you now.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and let me start by thanking all of the members of the Labour Group for their contributions this evening. I think what you have seen consistently from the Labour Group are not just speeches this evening, but a consistent pattern of support for our communities and for our residents. That means that when we talk of the successes that we've had in terms of people believing that their communities are great places and that the council is effective in the way that it delivers, it is because of the partnership between our members and our officers in delivering the ambition that we set out. As you can imagine, I'm going to address some of the contributions by our opposition, and in reverse order. Councillor Zizimos, if you're really concerned about mud, you can of course always walk on the pavement. Councillor Driscoll has set out very clearly early the challenges that we have with hydrology and the capacity within our drainage system, that of course is consistent with why we now have a super sewer that runs from the Acton storm tanks all the way out to East London. Councillor Kumar, if I picked up anything from your speech, it's that I absolutely agree with you. Our council plan should indeed be shaped by the people for the people. And that's indeed why it was derived from our winning manifesto in 2022. And of course, we will seek to achieve another mandate next year. Councillor Steed clearly didn't read his emails before he came to the council chamber. I'm sure he can find a response on his issue to that. Councillor Young dedicated his entire speech not to children and young people or older adults or the crisis in homelessness and housing, but indeed to Ealing Town Hall. And of course, if he wants to see progress on that issue, then he just needs to have words with the party in front of him, of course, given that the entire reason that the Ealing Town Hall is being held up is because Liberal Democrats are continuing to try and litigate it. So that brings me to Councillor Ball, who on the one hand says that he wants to see housing developed, and then on the other says that he doesn't want to give planning permission. Now, Councillor Ball is probably one of the biggest blockers on the London Borough of Ealing, who has one of the most atrocious records at planning committee when it comes to supporting genuinely affordable homes. And conveniently, Councillor
on a point
Busuttil,
of personal explanation,
you'll move your procedural motion at the end of my speech.
On a point of
You'll
personal
move your
explanation, I
procedural
have
motion
voted
at
for
the
some of the
end
larger
of my
schemes, actually.
speech. Madam Mayor, I'd like to reclaim my time. Turning to Councillor Gallant, who seems to have completely forgotten that the legacy that the Labour Party has now inherited nationally is entirely the consequence of his party's cataclysmic failure to govern our country and manage our economy well. So he's like a latter-day Goldilocks who says that he likes the Ealing Labour chair and he likes the Ealing Labour bed and he likes the Ealing Labour porridge, but it's a little bit too cold or it's a little bit too hot. It's not quite in the middle. It's the same fairy tale that he told in his speech last year. So turning to Councillor Malcolm, who, if we've got Goldilocks sitting behind him, is a bit of a cross between a Victor Meldrew and a Walter Mitty, because he seems to be able to randomly find at every council meeting that he attends a random individual who told him that they didn't like something. And this seems to be the consistent pattern of his contributions. Look, the fundamental reality is that we have a £1 billion organisation with almost 4,000 directly and indirectly employed staff that needs a future direction and a clear vision that is given a mandate from the people. That is what we secured in 2022, and I am so pleased that we have been able to deliver against the commitments that we've been able to deliver as an administration. In our final year, we will of course have the political party knockabout that we always have in the final year to determine who gets to take it forward. But don't take my word for it. Don't even take the resident survey, which says that 90% of people love the place that they live and 80% think that the council is doing a great job. This time next year, the people of Ealing will get to decide who leads them into the future. And it will be the Ealing Labour Party, confident in our future, confident in our successes, setting out the change that this borough needs.
Councillor Ball, do you want to make your complaint now?
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. A point of personal explanation that the leader was referring to my record, but in fact I have voted for a number of the largest developments that included large amounts of affordable housing.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
In the borough.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. Point of order. That is not a personal explanation. If we should take a record, Madam Mayor, of the decisions that Councillor Ball has voted against, I think we will find the overwhelming majority of decisions that he's voted on, recorded votes, demonstrate his record as one of the largest blockers of planning decisions in this borough.
If you want to talk about this outside this meeting, our legal officer will explain it to you. But I ask people, going back to the business of tonight, the annual plan, can we note that? Are we happy to note the plan? Agreed. Thank you. Due to the time now, can we call on Councillor Shaw to officially just move appointments to committee?
Move the appointments.
Thank you. Is that seconded by somebody?
I second it.
Can we agree that? Agreed. Now, before you're all very welcome to come upstairs. I know we're getting a bit party political because we've got elections in nearly a year's time. You're all very welcome to come upstairs, have a drink because it's my last meeting, including officers. You've all been reasonably okay behaved, not too bad, not too bad. But anyway, you're all very welcome to come upstairs. Thank you.